right now. Apparently, we're streaming right this moment. We're going to stream to Magic Mike's right now. Wait for it. Huh. It's like determining stream server. Pretty sure it's not Mexico. All right. Miami, Florida. Fantastic. All right.
There we go. Yeah, I got my Gmail notification that you're live.
We should be live. We should be live in it right now. I see things. I see stuff. I see live chats.
Wow, the word Monopolies looks really weird.
You know what? There's nothing I can do about that, buddy.
No, I know. It's not your fault.
Hello, chats.
Hi, chats. Okay.
Chats.
All right. Here we go. Move this over here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mike's. We are now proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. And we get started as we do each and every week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Konnichiwa.
Ruben Bressler.
Hi.
Hey, you.
There's only one word that I know of to follow up with the word konnichiwa, and it's not workplace appropriate.
Wow.
Because of Robin?
Because of Robin.
Yeah.
You know
Did
what?
you hear that she debuted a new song on Girls the other day?
Really?
No.
Oh yeah, she has a new song at the that played at the ending credits of Girls, and then she just released a song with a guy named Todd Rundgren. I guess he's some rock guy.
An old sort of rock star dude. Anyway,
Yeah, but now she's on a song with him, so it's just yay, Robin.
That's pretty cool. Huh. Okay, apparently he was with the Ringo Starr Band. This is Todd Rundgren. Okay, whatever. Point is, we're getting way off topic here really quickly.
Already. That only took us 2 minutes.
Took us 2 minutes, guys. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. For those who are listening for the first time and or joining us back here as usual. We're here. We had to miss last week because I was in Vegas at Gamma, and I was so busy at Vegas, at Gamma, I was not able to go hang out with Ruben, and
Fine.
we went over this in depth in the pre-show. If you want to go see that and watch me be grilled in real time.
I'm not hurt by it, Evan.
There were tears.
He says that.
What what you want. I'll just maintain my brave face.
Wow.
And you think about what you did.
I am an actual monster. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a monster.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I would have called you Ruben.
Well, I appreciate that, Aaron. I probably wouldn't have called back, but not just you, probably not Evan either.
Right. Why would you possibly do something like that? That's crazy. Okay.
I just live in my house.
So we get started as we do each and every single week nowadays with our CoolStuffInc.com giveaway. Courtesy of CoolStuffInc.com to celebrate the release of Duel Deck Mind versus Might that we're going to get to. We're going to get to it. But we're going to give away 2 copies of this Duel Deck. We're going to paste a magical link into magical chats. And as a result, you too can go and enter in a variety of ways. Is there echo? I heard there's echo.
Well, one person is saying there's echo, and that person is saying it a lot, and that's an echo.
Wow. All of you have a lot of echo. I don't really know how to fix that.
Well, in any case.
In any case,
we're gonna do. Give away.
You know, I have been playing a lot of Storm lately. Maybe my Storm count is too high, and there's just a stack of me talking.
All right, so you can.
Right, so the point is,
in order to do this, sorry, go ahead.
Right. So the point is, I have shared the link both in YouTube and Twitch chats. It will be in the description of the podcast for those who are listening to us. And you too can enter to win 2 different copies of Duel Deck Mind versus Might and all that good stuff. I've already shipped yesterday. I believe it was yesterday we shipped the scavenging oozes for the winner there. I am waiting to hear back from the winner of the Ultra Pro product. So check your emails and get back to me, because otherwise I want to pick another winner. I want to give away things and stuff. That's what I'm doing. All right. So
am I eligible to win this if I enter?
You're not eligible, Ruben.
Why not?
You can't do it.
Is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
All right. So here we are with what was a bombshell announcement. Just so happened to be the day after our last show for 2 weeks. Clearly. One that was so big and so impacting that I had to go make a magic show about it. I was like, look, I'm here. I'm going to be in Vegas next week. I got to get this out. I got to get these things out. I got to let people know what's going on. So let's back up a little bit now. ChannelFireball is now going to run all of the Grand Prix events from 2018. And from what I sort of been reading and hearing, we're talking about a multi-year deal. So let's just say 2018 and 19, just to kind of give us an idea of the scope here, okay? This puts a number of what used to be Premier Tournament organizers essentially not necessarily out of business, but out of the Grand Prix running business, because there's only one circus in town now. Made some points in the show, if you want to go watch that, but I'll give you the brief sort of rundown here for those who don't have time. Basically, no competition means no competition. And you know what happens when you have no competition? Usually prices go up, and usually experiences get poorer for whatever reason in a variety of ways. So it could be higher prices for players. It could be higher prices for vendors in order to be at those shows. The player bonuses, they get a consistent experience, and they get promotions that could run over multiple Grand Prix. There used to be like, go to these Grand Prix and you'll get a special widget. Well, now, because they run all the Grand Prix, they can do, cool promotions like attend 5 Grand Prix in a year and get something. Or, and what they should do, and I put this on Twitter, and I'm serious, ChannelFireball, it's time for the prize ticks card, okay? It's real simple. It's a magnetic strip. It should be an RFID chip, but it's okay. But just do the prize card, okay? You keep the data, all right? And my prize card just has an ID with it. And your database says this ID has $40 on it or 400 tickets or whatever it is, okay? When I swipe it, you see that. And because you control all the data, if I lose my card, I'm an idiot, and that's on me. I can still trade it for the full value of this card, okay? And I can go to any Grand Prix and do that. And it's weird. It's like you could data mine this and find out some really interesting behavior from players if you do this. So of those who may be thinking like, well, then players will be able to charge up and, buy big items and derp. Well, they're not spending those tickets at that show, right? So there's no prizes being handed out at that show. And sometimes Magic players are lazy and never get around to things and lose things. And so, okay. Point is, prize ticks card, not kidding. ChannelFireball, get on that. Anyway, player dangers could be higher prices. We've already seen a ridiculous increase, in my opinion, in GP entry prices. And I don't know if that train's going to be stopped anytime soon. And also, one of the easiest ways to get no original ideas ever showing up again is to have one organization do something over and over and over again. You get consistency, but you'll also get the fact that like nothing changes ever. So, and it's difficult to really change that type of system, because imagine if you're in the middle of that and you're in the middle of a worldwide system and you say, look, let's do something really cool for this event. And then they're instantly going to go, well, what about all the other Grand Prix? They don't get to have, this random thing that you wanted to do so-and-so. Mm-hmm. Well, then you can't really do it at that point. And then it just kills everything. And then all of a sudden, like, well, this is a Grand Prix. Grand Prix, just, copy, paste. And I don't know if anybody really wants that. So what I would stress is that I think it's still okay to try to do different and fun and interesting things while you have this monopoly, honestly. Like, take advantage of it in that way, and it will go over a little bit better. Now, when I move over to judges, that's when I was talking about in terms of the Magic Show for the unspoken issue, because I think the judge program is, I'm serious, it's just on its last legs. It's on its last legs. It really is. You see it for a few reasons. First of all, it's great for the judges that this happened because they have one place that they can go. Okay, one place they can go, that they're going to schedule all of their GP events. They're going to get their compensation is going to be very flat. There's not going to be bad organizers who don't pay them enough and great organizers who give them insane value and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, here's what you get. Okay, cool. So this is kind of solidifying where all the judges go for the premier events. They are currently getting rid of old legacy systems, like being able to look up your DCI number, for example, which you cannot do at this weekend's Grand Prix because Wizard, they turned it off tomorrow, I think it is. And this doesn't allow any shop or organizer to look up your DCI number for you any longer. So you better get to memorizing, and you can go make your Wizards account or whatever now. We'll talk more about that later. However, it could be the end of the judge program. Now, there are multiple lawsuits right now against Wizards of the Coast because judges are like, we are employees. You didn't treat us like employees. You didn't pay us like employees. You didn't give us breaks like employees. But you acted in all other fashions to say that you paid us for our work and our time, but we weren't employees, so we didn't get benefits. That's a problem. This is happening all over the convention industry. Yes, for Magic, it's Grand Prix, but we're talking about like the Emerald City Comic Con. We're talking about Wizard World. They're all going through this, where it's like you got to get away from this whole volunteer thing, because you can't volunteer for a for-profit company. You can't. And so now you give them kind of different monikers or whatever. Well, getting the judges all centralized into one organizer allows them to create, something that's not called the DCI, and let the judges be a part of that. And if you get that as a completely separate entity, suddenly, legally, it looks a lot better that you're like, look, we made choices, and we put things in place to get the judge program, sort of 100% separated from Wizards of the Coast, so we can't say that there's any sort of conflict of interest or whatever. That's the thing that you can do once you have these changes in place. And one of the last things I'll note, and this actually came from a judge, I actually kind of aped this from their Facebook feed, which was, arguably, let's imagine you're in the judge program, okay? And you want to level up in the judge program. You want to be a high-level judge. You want to do all the cool things and all that good stuff. Well, you kind of have one gatekeeper. You have one person or group of people, whoever's in charge of it, who can basically, yes or no, part of your career. If you wanted to do a thing, there's your one-stop shop. So try to stay on everybody's good side in terms of who's in charge of that thing, because otherwise, there you are. You want to go to the same well every single time. So that's kind of a run over of what I talked about, there. And for those who hadn't, read up on that, that's sort of where we're at in terms of GPs being taken over. But Ruben, tell us what you think about it at this point, and then Aaron, you can let us know.
Well, I mean, there are some good things and there are some bad things. I'll start with the good things because there are fewer of them. The consistent experience, I think, is a very important thing. I think that, when you go to a Grand Prix, oftentimes it has been a crapshoot, what your experience is going to be like. And in recent years, the organizer has become a much larger factor in whether or not players will choose to go to Grand Prix, particularly if there are opposing Grand Prix in the United States and you happen to live equidistant from them. Like if you have one in LA and one in New York and you live in the middle of the country, or you live in another large city and the air tickets would be exactly the same, you would say, well, TO number 1 is running this one, TO number 2 is running this one. I'm going to definitely go to this one because TO number 1 is not great at their job. It's more of a customer experience kind of thing. And so the consistent experience, having the same setup, having the same people, having the same things at every event is a much bigger deal in that capacity. And I think that is a good step forward. Now the bad. I think that the monopoly concerns are very real in that this is not just a monopoly. This isn't a natural monopoly, one that just sort of happened out of nowhere. This is what economists call a coercive monopoly, where instead of being, forced out by the nature of the business, you're actively being prevented from other businesses are actively being prevented from entering the marketplace. And especially in coercive monopolies, there's less of an incentive for the controller of the monopoly to keep prices low. In some cases they will, I'm not saying that ChannelFireball will do this, but in some cases they may deliberately price gouge customers simply because there's no other place to go. And historically speaking, coercive monopolies just perform badly. Like they just give you bad service. They are inefficient. And that's just historically what a coercive monopoly does. And that's what's going to exist here. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to be they're going to follow that trend. I mean, they might surprise me and buck the trend and continue to evolve. ChannelFireball is a great organizer. They've come up with some excellent ideas. They consistently have either the second or first best coverage. They've taken the most strides in making sure coverage improves from year to year. I think that it's an excellent a company. I just worry that once they aren't racing against anyone else, they're gonna set their own pace and be worse. That's the main thing that I'm concerned about with all of this. It remains to be seen. This is all just theory crafting at this point. And I hope they prove me wrong, and that all of the good things that we bring up are things that happen, and all of the bad things that we bring up won't happen. But we live in the real world where that isn't really what's going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with the judge program, and I don't want to get into it because we could spend the whole gosh darn show on judges again, because we do that regularly. But once another shoe drops in the judge program issue, then we can start moving more on whether the judge program is going to start crumbling to dust. But for now, it's going to be higher prices for everybody, like just because ChannelFireball controls it. So like, why wouldn't they? But on the flip side, we're going to be paying for a more consistent experience, and it's going to be the good ChannelFireball experience that we already have. And now they're able to have the freedom to do more things, like you said, like having the swipe card where you know after your 12th tournament entry you get a free sandwich or whatever. But
LSV makes the sandwich. That's the best part.
Right, LSV makes it. Yeah, after you get a pair of shoes for free after your 13th pair, like a Foot Locker. But we don't know what that'll be yet. So the negatives are always way heavier on my brain than the positives, because I'll be pleasantly surprised if everything goes great. Right. But hope for the best and be prepared for the worst.
Right. I mean, well, two things before I hand it off to Aaron. One, I think when Wizards plays Kingmaker, that's dangerous. And two, somebody's got some serious squeak action going on. We're not actually.
That's not me.
All right,
that's me. My chair is bumping up against the wall. I'll solve that issue.
Just a thing, but we're hearing squeaky, what sounds like McFarter pants, and
that's me. That's me squeaking. That's my old chair.
It's his old chair.
My old man chair.
All right, Aaron, how are you feeling about these GPs moving forward?
So we've kind of talked about, you mentioned the different areas that were going to be affected by this. You mentioned the competition being affected, players being affected, and judges being affected. And you mentioned the possibility of the end of the judge program. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It does seem like there's a lot of delegation happening. It seems like Wizards is trying to distance itself as much as it can from certain areas of organized play. We've seen them delegating the coverage to Twitch. They partnered with Twitch. They're letting Twitch make a lot more of the decisions. I'm under the impression that that's what they're doing. And so they're kind of paving the way for Twitch to sort of handle the coverage a bit more. We're now seeing it with organized play, where they're letting ChannelFireball handle more of the decisions, more of the heavy lifting. And so in keeping with that trend, I wouldn't be surprised if they either force the judge program to be autonomous and independent. So again, they don't really have to deal with that. But it does seem like there's this pattern of them distancing themselves. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, and I'm curious to see if there might be some other delegation that takes place as well. The thing I found most fascinating about this is right after they announced this, Pete Heffling made a post over at StarCityGames.com, and he sort of gave his perspective, saying that Wizards has announced this thing, and they've decided they're going with certain organizers, and then he says so that he makes it sound as if that the organizers had to submit proposals to be sort of the one to host them all. And then he says, because too many aspects of this new direction did not align with our plans for SCG Tour, I informed Wizards of the Coast that we would remove ourselves from consideration and would not be submitting a proposal to host GPs in 2018. Now, Star City Games has proven itself to be a very aggressive, they want to be in on the action, and they're good at it. And so it was very surprising to me to see Heffling say, we didn't even put our hat in the ring, essentially. Well, and so I'm really curious what might have been, because he also makes mention of the fact that it didn't align with their values. And I'm kind of curious, like, what exactly were the terms? What exactly was in the fine print that even made Pete Heffling say, this isn't in line with what I want to be known with? I'm so curious about that.
I mean, Star City Games for a long time at this point, since I worked there at least, has sort of not cared so much about the GP and Pro Tour circuit.
Well, who wouldn't want a piece of that pie, though? I mean,
they already have their own thing, though. Why would they care?
I don't know if I would, and I don't mean any shade by this, but I don't know if I would, if I had a choice between I could run every GP in the world for the next 1 or 2 years, or I could just do the SCG Tour. No shade. I don't know that I would necessarily pass up the GP opportunity for the SCG Tour opportunity is all I'm saying. Like that seems like a big opportunity.
Right, and the way that I would put it on this, sort of very, very politely, and the way that I would put it is essentially there's a lot that goes into running a Grand Prix, running in all of them, and particularly, and I think this was the big one, all over the world.
Yeah.
It's one thing when you're just in the U.S., you're dealing with U.S. stuff, and it's all in American dollars, and you understand how all the systems work, and you know how the public transportation works. But you go into a different country, and it's, things kind of spiral. So it is quite a daunting task.
I do want to build off something Ruben said, though, too. You mentioned the fact that without, competition or something like that, if you have nobody to sort of raise the bar, you have no real incentive to innovate. Right now, going back to Star City is sort of the top of their game when it comes to coverage. Nobody can deny that Patrick and, Cedric are the team to be. And I remember we talked about even when they had the coverage summit and you didn't even invite them to the party. Like, what is that? We've talked about Haruya and the way that they run their GPs. And these are people that make you want to be better. These are people that inspire you. And if you're the only person running the show, you have nobody to look around to and sort of compare notes with, and nobody to really light a fire under you and make you be better. So I do worry about that. I do worry about the events becoming kind of vanilla and stale, if you will. And then the last concern I have is it seems it's very awkward to, we've talked about some of these TOs that might be, out of work to some degree when this change happens. And so these changes aren't going to be happening until 2018, but it kind of feels like, you get your 60-day notice at work and then you're still expected to come to work and do a good job. And it's like, these are all people who know that by the end of the year it's done. And I do, I remember when we were at GP Dallas in November and it was Pez's last event and that event was sketchy as hell. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Pez knew that, what are you going to do? Fire us? And, there were issues of judges not being paid on time. Yeah, and so I do wonder if that might compromise the quality of events for this year, because what incentive do these guys have to do a good job if they're not coming back in 2018?
And, I don't think you can blame anyone, yourself or anyone else, for kind of bringing up that point. Like, look, they got
if
nothing.
Vegas isn't good, though, then everybody who runs an event after Vegas is going to be like, ooh, we're gonna show them up, show them what they're missing, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not anticipating that it's going to be a disaster, but it's a huge event. You never know. That's the Star City event where we're broke down for 3.5 hours that I was at, that I'm forgetting which one it was now. But that was a huge disaster for Star City Games running a GP, and you anticipate Star City events to be spectacular, comparatively speaking, and that one just, wasn't, just as a result of the elemental things that happened at the event site. Not their fault, it just is a thing. So, and when you run 3 events simultaneously, back to back to back, in 120-degree heat in the middle of Las Vegas in the summer while EDC is happening and all these other festivals, the potential is higher for something to go wrong. So,
but as we saw with the Star City thing, they were able to turn that around simply with the good customer service, simply with giving people opportunities to recoup their losses. I mean, that's actually something we learned today. I was doing a web training at work, and they said that, complaints are opportunities to wow the customer. And so even if something goes wrong, I think it's how a TO bounces back from that determines the outcome.
But the thing is, like, when you're playing Mario Kart on the Wii, stay with me. When you're playing Mario Kart on the Wii with your friends, you set faster lap times when you're racing against your friends than when you're just at home, unless you're playing against the Ghost Racer. But you're typically not playing against the Ghost Racer, because why would you play against the Ghost Racer? But in any case, if you're just doing lap times on your own, you're consistently slower. At least I am. Than when you have competition pushing you forward.
Yes.
Than when you're actively trying to beat other people and be better and improve yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that's a real thing. The competitiveness of the market isn't just in Mario Kart racing. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's what I hope we don't lose is that. And also the price increases have already been, we've already established, kind of ridiculous. And now with no competition,
we've also joked about what might happen if you actually put that money into like a stellar event. Like we've joked about having lunches, and we've joked about, if you're going to pay that much, giving us like a deluxe experience. And so who's to say that might not be where the money goes? Like it could happen, open mind,
Yeah. Okay. I mean, sure.
Look, we'll see.
Unicorns and puppies, y'all. I'm all
you were
about
the one
it.
who suggested it.
Go back. We can't see all the way down the tunnel. We can't. We aren't going to know until we cross the bridge whether the bridge is rickety and old or whether it's a good solid bridge.
Or if it's a bridge from below.
Excellent
segue. All right. So Modern Masters is here. Modern Masters is out. A lot of people talking about, sort of the price drops in this, the price drops in that. You can still get boxes right now for $2.15 at coolstuffinc.com. Free shipping. But there's something I wanted to point out, and actually two things I wanted to point out. Let's run around one more second to GP Vegas. Can someone tell me about what's going on with the artist alley there?
I can. Okay.
Go for it.
So they've been kind of rolling out this roster of artists who's going to be joining them, and apparently they announced the last. Sorry about that. They announced the last artist tonight, which I find fascinating because the event is 3 months away, and so they're making it sound as if it's locked in. Like who they have right now, that's it.
I got the full. Oh no, never mind. I don't have the full list. It's not up yet.
And then to sort of what has some people, what people are curious about is that all of the artists who are featured are men.
Wow.
So
yeah,
no
this
Magali,
is a long list too.
no Winona, no Therese, no Carla Ortiz. And these are not just like up and coming. These are women that have done like fantastic things for the game. And somebody's like, really? Like, and to be fair, we don't know if they're
35 artists. How
there are
did they
35
do that?
artists. But to be fair, though, when Magali had been sick for a little while, I don't think I've seen Therese at an event for a while. So that's not to say that maybe they had been offered and they turned it down. We don't know. But there are some people that are going, there are some really awesome female artists in this game that you just didn't ask to come. Like,
yeah, I feel like you have to try.
Yeah.
Look, man.
So I'm holding out until I hear them say something. Like Therese.
Go ahead.
No, so say if Therese comes forward, and because obviously she's being tagged in this, and so if Therese speaks up and says, you know what, I wasn't asked, then we'll unleash the dogs. But if Therese comes forward and she's like, you know what, guys, I really appreciate the support, but I just didn't want to do it. That's one thing. And so
I mean, I don't think there's anything nefarious happening here. I just think that it's a weird thing that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, like, my hope is that they asked, Anna Steinbauer, they asked Therese, they asked Magali.
Yes.
They said, hey, you really important up and coming and or like ridiculous legends of MTG art.
Right.
I'm not even talking about Rebecca Gay
Get
or
me
anybody.
Kaja Foglio one time to show up to an.
Oh my
But
God!
instead,
Yes.
I mean, look, man, we got a sausage fest, and I don't know if that was by design. Can we not do that? That would be great if we could not do that.
Is it unusual that they had the roster completely locked in 3 months away? Like it sounds like they're not open.
That's not crazy because I mean I've planned those types of things. You got to get everything in there and who gets travel and their hotel and all this other stuff. You want stuff locked in, particularly at an event that big. You want it locked in as soon as possible. However, its makeup is weird. It's not like there's no no female artists and there's just zero. Like no, there's plenty, whether high profile or low profile, that they could have reached out to or looked at.
They were all busy.
Every single one. And maybe
Heather Hudson and Kaja Foglio and Therese Nielsen and Rebecca Guay had the female Magic Artists retreat.
Hell, give me Margaret Organ Keene. I can get my Lion's Eye Diamond signed. Like, come on.
I have no idea who that person is.
She made
Lion's Eye Diamond.
Lion's Eye Diamond.
Well,
she drew Lion's
great.
Eye Diamond.
We did
and
it.
that's fantastic. But seriously, can we just give us a token? Again, maybe this is one of those things, like when Wizards was like, hey, we're not going to update the Pauper format for a month plus. And I was like, Jesus, Wizards, thanks, bruh. And everyone else was like, wow, seriously? You can't add a list of cards for a month? And turns out they could add a list of cards. And so they did it last night. And it's in the update today. High five. All right, Pauper, sweet. That's great. Maybe sometimes us just saying, hello, this is dumb, maybe they'll fix it.
Maybe. We got a loud mouths on this show. People apparently listen to us. But do you think that it's does Therese have an exclusivity thing with SCG now that they've done so many programs together? Or
I mean, I have no
idea. I don't know.
She hasn't discussed it.
There was never.
Just curious.
In my experience, that just never really comes up because ultimately, artists are available or not available, and you want to have the best artists and so on and so forth. And again, I just feel like if you're going to run an event like that, you should just go grab everyone. If you could, where's John Avon, right? Like, where'd he come in?
God.
Rob Alexander, yeah.
Right.
I mean, look, there's so many Magic artists.
There's lots.
That having 35 is amazing.
Is fantastic.
And Mike Linneman's also doing an artist show, like an art show that's going to be dope.
Yeah.
Mike Linneman does great things. I'm very excited about
it. It is worth bringing up and discussing and then not really complaining about and just sort of looking at oddly.
Exactly.
Right.
I think.
Like a piece of art.
I'm officially filing a complaint, but I'm also acknowledging and appreciating what we got here. Okay.
Yes.
We complain because we care. All right, that's why we're doing this. I'm not trying to knock them to knock them. I want them to fix it. I think this is real easy. Yeah. Just give me one, man.
Yeah, if we didn't think that it could be fixed, or we didn't think that WotC just as a brain could be fixed, we wouldn't give these annoying suggestions.
These are solvable things if they want to solve them. Okay, I wanted to point it out. All right, so speaking of things to point out, Modern Masters 2017 came out. You know, it lowered prices around the board for reprints. It also increased the prices of a lot of stuff that weren't reprinted, you know, Engineering Explosives and Crucible Worlds and so on and so forth, and Karn, for example. However, Infinite, whatever they didn't reprint was ridiculous. You know, Mishra's Bauble. Either way, what they did reprint just so happened to kind of put the knife in the back and twist to the value of Dragon's Maze. You know what Dragon's Maze had? It had Voice of Resurgence and the Voice of Resurgence token, which, by the way, I got one of me. So, hey. Yeah. So, holy cow. You know what a box of Dragon's Maze is worth on average? This is from the Dawn Glare website, by the way, that kind of tracks this stuff. $35.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. How much?
35 American dollars. You know,
can trade away.
Just count them out.
You can trade away a box of Dragon's Maze, get a Mishra's Bauble in return, and still owe the person who's given you the Mishra's Bauble $15.
Unreal.
So if you go to mtg.dawnglare.com, there's a bunch of really cool price tools that showed all sorts of crazy stuff. But the point is that by set, it's not good. Basically, ever since Battle for Zendikar, it's like they've actually been less than you could buy them MSRP, and some of the older ones are a lot higher. But Dragon's Maze in particular has just kick in the butt in terms of its value, because they kind of reprinted all the things worth the crap.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah. Wasn't really good to begin with, and now, you know, obviously after you reprint the only rare that's worth reprinting, and the token, but like it's a token, right? It's not really anything. But yeah, it's a perfect storm of things to make a box of Magic cards that isn't Fallen Empires or Homelands worth $35.
Let's face it here, they have Battle for Zendikar listed for $39, so we're not talking about anything crazy. What I am currently eyeing as the lowest is Fallen Empires. Let's face it, it's garbage. However, one step up, $24 a box, Born of the Gods.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic.
That was so bad. Oh my god,
it's always these third sets.
No, that was a middle
set.
That was a
middle
set.
That one was a middle set. Woo. But it's usually third sets that are the ones that are left out, right?
I mean, it depends. I mean, you know, like the Alara boxes.
It's never
nuts,
first
Zendikar
sets.
boxes are nuts. Scars boxes are nuts. Innistrad,
it's never first
the
sets.
dip. No. It's never
first set.
Right. And Gatecrash, for what's worth, is actually a little higher than Return to Ravnica on their chart here. And this to me is just really fascinating. Obviously, this doesn't mean much. I just thought it was funny and weird and interesting. Yeah. And we should point out that, like, hey, Dragon's Maze isn't worth anything anymore.
Any dollars.
Thanks, guys.
That's sure.
All right.
Well, it'll happen.
So,
and once Modern Masters 4 comes out, then Born of the Gods will drop down to $15 a box.
There you go. Yeah, they're just going to reprint whatever is worth half a dollar in that thing. Okay, so speaking of cards not worth a lot, so there's a new duel deck. We're giving some away, as we do. Mind versus Might deck lists showed up, and wow, did everyone
let's
yawn?
Really pump. Hold on, let's really pump up this giveaway. You guys can win 2 copies of Mind versus.
Wow. Okay. Now look, dual decks are a mass market product. They call this a mass market product. Okay. Mass market products go in Walmart. They go in Target. Okay. So when you're hanging out and someone's like, what's this weird Magic thing? Or I just learned how to play the other day, and they pick up this dual deck, it's got Storm in it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You want the people who buy Magic cards at Walmart to play with Storm cards? Are you serious? Mind's Desire is like your mythic? Bruh? Have you played against Temporal Fissure? I'm serious. Like, actually played games of Magic the Gathering with that stupid card. They got it banned in Pauper. I got to play in Pauper when that card was still real. And
I didn't even know things were banned in Pauper until tonight.
There's a bunch of cards banned in Pauper in this deck. And
Grape Shot's banned. Empty the Warrens is banned.
Sure, I'm glad.
You gotta love.
I should have love a deck. Go ahead.
Sorry, you gotta love a deck that has cards banned in multiple formats playing against a deck that has Gorehorn Minotaurs in it. It is really.
I know what I'm playing.
Something else. I know if I had my choice between the deck that has like Goblin Electromancer and Snap and like lots of interesting effects that let you play multiple spells and make 30 goblins in one turn, and the deck that has Rada, Heir to Keld, and Talar's Battalion. Boy, howdy.
I mean,
let me tell you,
look.
I'm not picking that deck.
I mean, when somebody at Wizards was like, you know what needs a new printing with brand new art? The Unspeakable from Champions of Kamigawa. Because it just...
Well, that's the one miss. That's the one miss from that set. They do have the Unspeakable, which is kind of weird.
Can we talk about the new Desperate Ritual art, though? I love it. I
new
love
Desperate Ritual art and new Snap art. Both super gorgeous.
I really feel like it encompasses, the spirit of being desperate. You have this little creature who is from Kamigawa, apparently, and they're stuck in what appears to be a lava flow, and they're on this tiny little island of rock, and it seems like the lava is creeping up on them, and they're like, oh my god, and so they're casting a spell, and I love everything about this, and I would get these.
Oh man!
I also love the new art for Guttural Response. I think that those are going to be super expensive.
Harambe's Revenge.
Harambe's Revenge.
Just a
big gorilla running at you
with a broadsword and armor just coming for you. That is
just
fantastic.
A dire gorilla coming at you from the woods.
I didn't know that Lovisa was a card, and now I can't look at her without hearing Bonnie Tyler in my head, except it's turn around, cold eyes.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
A B, at least a B.
B minus. Lovisa Cold Eyes, originally printed as a human lord, got a creature type update on this card. I guess that's the reason why they did this.
And Sprinkle wants to do this. I think she'd kill it.
Sure. Okay. Now that it's here, why not?
Let's do
it. Now that we have a reprint of Lovisa, when they printed what was it? It was the From the Vault like Annihilation, and it had a bunch of cool stuff in it, and then there were just a bunch of near-death experiences. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And now all of the retailers just have a full 5,000 count box of foil near-death experiences. That's what's going to happen to Lovisa Cold Eyes, right? There's going to be I've never seen that card cast in my life. Have you? Have you ever seen that card cast?
I didn't even know she was a card. I wasn't around for Cold Snap, so.
Look, the only thing, a few things that are shiny moments in this is that, snaps are going to get cheaper for Pauper Online.
Well, good, great.
Congratulations, guys. There's your silver lining.
Silver lining.
Rift bolts
Alex
are going to
Ullman
be cheaper.
is wetting himself as we speak.
Yeah.
Small miracles.
Some cheaper Rift bolts, some cheaper snaps. That's fantastic.
Sure.
The whole thing is just really strange. I don't, they were like, what we ain't done in a dual deck that's going to go in mass market to like millions of people? Storm. And they're just like, dude, high five, let's go get lunch, bruh. And he's just like, I know, right? They're like going, he's like, let's do the other one. Like, let's see if a Cold Eyes. He's like, yeah, dude, that's insane. Really? It's like they're throwing darts, or they're just like, or they're in a rush. I don't understand what's happening anymore.
It's kind of confusing as well, because you made a really great point about this sort of being for sort of the mass market, and like they've already made it clear that Storm is a 10 on the Storm scale. They're never going to reprint it. They're never going to do anything else like that.
Called the Storm scale.
Right, but I'm saying it's strange. Right, but what I'm saying is, you bring up a really good point. If you're introducing this mechanic to possibly newer players or casual players who may enjoy this and who may want a taste of this, and then let's say they want to do more, and then you find out that it's one of the most reviled mechanics in the game, and that this is probably one of your few chances to do it, and it's like, that just seems kind of cruel. Or it's like, okay, so you're going to give them the bait and then be like, oh, and
can't wait for them to showcase Dredge in the next one.
Don't tease me like that.
Well, see, that's like teasing interesting to you, but to the mass market, it's like, what is happening? I don't understand how we're playing Magic
Dredge dual
anymore.
deck, I think of just like the two most, the two level 10 Storm scales, I think is fascinating. But
oh my god, the whole thing is weird. Now look, I too get a kick out of cowards not blocking warriors or whatever. All right, that's great. Bold Weird Intimidator is a super cool card.
awesome.
But call the herd. All right,
Yeah.
more.
When
more
I cast
rares.
my 5/5 for 7, the next turn my opponent just temporal fissures it back to my hand.
I'd never seen that card before. That is bananas.
That card
Temporal
is-
fissures not.
That
not
card
okay.
is not a fun Magic card. That doesn't bring a lot of the fun times for me. It does when I'm casting it. That's it.
Right. This, as a dual deck, which is designed to bring new players into the game, the storm mechanic in general, and specifically the card Temporal Fissure. Like, can you imagine being a new player and your opponent goes spell, 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 Mind's Desire, revealing 5 spells, one of which is a Temporal Fissure, and you're just like, pick up all your permanents. Well, this makes me want to play Magic again. What are you? What?
Oh,
I don't get it.
I can't. I'm just, look, guys, of all the, you call it the storm scale, for God's sake. Whew. All right, so that's ridiculous. But you know what?
Hashtag tasting colors.
Yeah.
You can enter to win one of 2 copies of that for free. Links below.
Look, you don't have to play the decks.
Right.
Just tear them apart like they're an animal carcass and sell the Desperate Rituals and the Harambe's Revenges and the new art for the Unspeakable.
Now, as I understand it, it does include Coat of Arms. That's a big
yeah,
deal.
with the original art too. Yeah.
And that's cool. So don't get me wrong. That's neat. I'm gonna give him. I'm gonna +1 neat there. Okay, you get +1 neat.
There's certainly value in the cards in this set. I mean, new art Joyra is a commander thing. People love playing Joyra in Commander. A lot of the spells, the Desperate Ritual new art, the Snap new art, the Guttural Response new art, those are things that have seen play and continue to see play in Modern. You know, the Mind's Desires will be popular for vintage players. You know, there's still plenty of I don't think that it's a bad value. You'd have to ask the professor. I haven't done the math on it. # done the math. But and Coat of Arms, of course, is a big thing. But you got to you take the good and you take the bad. The value is there. I don't think the experience is there.
Just remember, they put the Coat of Arms not in the deck with Empty the Warrens. Okay, that's how we roll here. Okay.
Well, sure. That's so that you can cast the Coat of Arms on turn 5 and your opponent can storm off and make 20/20/20s, and then you just look at your hand of Burning Tree Emissaries and feel embarrassed.
Woo. Look, man, and again, all I'm saying is these decks could be fantastically designed for dual deck play against each other, but to highlight a mechanic that you literally have described as so broken you will never repeat it.
Yeah.
In Walmart. All right, so moving on, we're gathering the townsfolk as we do, and there was a really fascinating article by Neale Talbot. Now, Neale Talbot has written for Gather Magic. He writes every once in a while for TCG Player. Super cool guy, really insightful dude. And he wrote an article about Magic Digital Next. And Lord knows we've talked lots and lots about Magic Digital Next and what it could be and what it's supposed to be and what everything means and why, what are these weird investor calls about? What are these quarterly reports about? And I think he kind of I think he kind of at least pieced enough of it together where I was like, wow, this makes sense. Okay, so let me just give you sort of his rundown. Here's his recap. Okay, his recap is Wizards needs to consolidate their customer tracking information into a single customer identifiable ID. What that means is that back in the day, you used to have a World of Warcraft account. You used to have an account you played, Warcraft 3 with. You used to have an account you played something else in Blizzard with that I can't think of at this moment.
Battle.net.
Like Diablo, or whatever.
StarCraft.
The point is, there used to be different accounts in different places and whatever. So then they said Battle.net 2.0 is everything merges into one thing. So now when you download Battle.net, you see Battle.net, and on the left-hand side you see all the games that your ID is now going to be across. And you see Hearthstone, you see World of Warcraft, you see Diablo, all that cool stuff. You see Overwatch. That's how they tie them all together. What he's saying is basically Wizard is doing that right now. They've already consolidated DCI and other information into Wizards accounts. Once you have a Wizard account, and this is where it gets really interesting because when you have a single sign-on ID, at that point, Wizards can now track both your online play and your offline play together. Oh, I can only imagine the high-fiving they were doing when they started putting all this together, because now when you play at F&M or when you play on Magic Online, they're going to be able to put those two pieces of data together and say, hey, the people who play every week at F&M play X%, of Magic Online with their time playing Magic. They know where you've been and what you've been doing. And A little creepy, a little weird, but come on, it's 2017. Who cares about privacy? The point is, they are going to be able to get a lot of really cool data out of this. They're able to make some better decisions because of this, and they're able to see what customer behavior really is when they're able to kind of spider these things together with hooks, which is kind of what they're doing. Wizards is phasing out DCI numbers and shutting down legacy systems. As of tomorrow, your local shop cannot look up your DCI number for you, so find it and memorize it. I got a 6-digit number, so I can remember that.
Or type it into your phone. Most people have 10-digit DCI numbers. Your phone number's 10 digits.
Or tattoo.
Etc.
Tattoo.
That's aggressive.
But... a little. But you know what? It's for you. It's with you for life. Until there's a Wizards ID. So Magic Digital Next, he noted, has been identified as a platform, quote unquote, that provides a, quote, seamless digital experience. Now, it's also said to provide Magic with no compromises, and I don't know if this necessarily fits it, but maybe. And lastly, he says here, Magic Digital Next could serve as Wizards' opportunity to unify accounts as a launch pad of interacting with Magic IP products, both online and offline. That's what I was talking about. People play FNM, play Magic Online. People play FNM, play Magic, play Duels of the Planeswalkers. I've dabbled a little bit in Duels of the Planeswalkers myself. I went through actually one or two of their entire scenario things because it's kind of neat and I was bored or whatever. But they could actually see that. They could see that somebody who's been, has had a Magic Online account since 2005 or 6 or whatever it was, actually spend some time playing duels. That's really interesting data. How could they use that? Where should they put their resources and their time? They can really tell that based on player behavior. So that was really fascinating stuff. Link is going to be in the description. I'll post the link here in the chat so you guys can take a look at it. But I think Neale did a great job at kind of putting that stuff together and saying, like, here are some things that I've kind of pieced based on what they've told the public. Ultimately, I think this is Wizards copying Blizzard. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
By all means, I think it's a good idea. So you keep that crap up, all right? So we're going to have probably our own, Magic Digital Next client, and inside it's going to be Magic Online, inside it's going to be Duels, inside it's going to be whatever. Like, that's going to be a thing now, and that's cool.
We're going to get our own BattleNet soon. Which is great.
And look, ultimately, I'm personally glad that a lot of some of the focus has gone off of they're going to get rid of Magic Online, because there is a complexity bundle. There are wires inside of wires inside of wires, literally tens of thousands of cards that do different things that all interact with each other that they've been working on for the past 12 years or whatever,
right? Longer.
13 years. Well, man, that's been longer than that. Anyway, I'm an old man. The point is, they've been working on it forever, and just to throw that baby out with the bathwater is a little rough. Sure, it looks like it's from the 90s, but you can play Magic, actual factual Magic. So that's the thing. So, Ruben, how do you feel about all this?
I think that his breakdown is, it's really dense and lots of jargon, and it's tough to get through if you're not super invested in not just Magic, but the inner workings of the Magic online client and the company as a whole. But basically, he boils it down to some very important things, the first of which I hadn't considered, which is that Magic Digital Next will not be a replacement or a competitor of Magic Online. It's going to be a supplement. It's going to lift up Magic Online. It's going to help Magic Online in the long term. And it starts with the consolidation of player information, connecting the live information and the online information into the Wizards accounts, right? We're taking the DCI information that you're never going to be able to find from your local game store ever again, putting that together with your online stuff into one seamless transition, phasing out all the legacy systems and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have one ID number. You're going to have one ID name, whatever it ends up being. In addition, you're going to have, like we said, with BattleNet. I'm very familiar with BattleNet. I've been playing StarCraft since middle school, and everyone's played Diablo or they've played Overwatch or something like that. You know what that page looks like. Right. And we're going to have, instead of having, Diablo 3, Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone, we're going to have Magic Online. Whatever the Magic Online MMO is going to be. We're going to have some fighting game. I'm sure we're going to have Puzzle Quest, all the Magic branded other stuff, all of it together in a much more professional and updated system. And that this gives Wizards the opportunity to launch new products like that, because when you have your opening window, obviously most people are going to click Magic Online, but that allows you to cross promote your other new things like Puzzle Quest or whatever they end up coming out with.
Sure.
The big key phrase from all of this is it's a seamless. What was the key phrase? It's a seamless digital experience.
Right.
Which is the big deal here, and it sounds like tech jargon, which means it probably didn't come through the communication vice president. That's what they said, right? That is straight from the mouths of babes. That is what they're trying to go for here, and that's really reassuring, honestly. In the short term, it doesn't really engender confidence in MTGO for me, personally. Because now, again, I'm not the audience for MTGO, but if they don't care as much about improving the customer experience so much as bringing everything together and sort of streamlining things, that signifies to me that it's more about the money than about actually solving the problem that people have been caring about. So I'm a little skeptical on that front, but other than that, I think, and I also think that that's completely just me being paranoid, right? Like that's just me being a person who's been burned by Magic Online before. So beyond that, I think that all of this is positive, and the only negative that I could even find was one inside my own brain that I've created out of nothingness. So I think that that this is it's a fabulous breakdown, and if he's right, we got nothing to worry about.
Well, I mean, let's take a look at what Wizards just announced for their Magic Online constructed event changes. So they've introduced treasure chests. Okay, well, first of all, they introduced fun bucks, and we talked about fun bucks, and these are the play points, and how now fun bucks exist, and oh my god, Magic Online is ending, and it turns out it actually kind of stabilized the economy. Okay, great. So now there is treasure chests, and instead of offering boosters, the competitive constructed leagues as well as vintage daily events, because those guys need a kick in the butt. They're going to remove treasure chests they're going to remove boosters rather and add treasure chests. So instead, you're going to get something like 16 treasure chests when you win a competitive league. That's a lot. You're going to get you're going to be able to get some play points. You're going to get some qualifying points, and that's great. But again, look how they're removing part of the sort of the thing that you're paying for, the booster part of it that you would pay sort of full price for, and giving you this digital thing instead. So just let me give you an idea of what they can do here. Let's say I would give you a free draft on Magic Online if you went and completed the campaign for Duels of the Planeswalkers. I would complete that campaign on Duels of the Planeswalkers if you did that for me. I would do that. If you gave me 10 tickets because I went and played Magic Puzzle Quest, for 10 minutes or something stupid,
right,
or just downloaded and installed it, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Once these things are together, first of all, data is king, as mentioned in chat, and you're not wrong. When Wizards finally gets their crap together, data is king, and they need data. They don't have it. They need to get it, and then they get it all together. You get your crap together, and go sell at the crap store. Just get it together. So they're going to get all their data together, and they're going to be able to analyze it and use it, and they're going to be able to put these hooks in the different games so they can all start working together. Because sure, Magic Online is still kind of really embarrassing, and I hate that it's still kind of that way, but this has to be step one. Step one has to be, we got to get our house in order, we got to get our data in order, we have to get all of our products into a single box where we can say this is what we do here, and once they do that, then I think you can start going down the road of, okay, maybe we can make Magic Online not look like it's from the 90s. And, kind of go from there. Because here's the part where Neale doesn't actually explain it. And I'm not necessarily knocking him. I'm just saying it's a thing in the article that doesn't make any sense anymore. Magic Digital Next has sent out screenshots of, like Magic players playing in a new play space, playing in an entirely what looks like a new client. Now, this could very well end up just being a refresh to Duels of the Planeswalkers, and that's it. Magic Digital Next is this platform. This is what Duels looks like now. High five, and then we all go home. And that's great, but I think there's definitely still some question marks here, but I think it solved a lot more than the answers or the questions that it created.
Yeah.
So
I also think that the last thing that it wasn't brought up in this article, but this could do, is that the main thing that's holding Magic Online back is that the price of an online booster costs as much as a live booster. And so they need to solve that issue somehow, either by making it so that you can share between your collections, or by disconnecting the value of an online booster and a live booster. And because the cards don't cost the same, so why do the booster packs still cost the same? That's what's one of the other things that's holding Magic Online back, and I think that one of the things that Magic Digital Next is going to have to try to solve.
Well, I know that, again, the redemption set changes actually, I think, began with Ether Revolt, so it's only going to be available for a very short time. All of a sudden, they're getting rid of packs in these constructed leagues. That's very interesting. And, you know, for God's sakes, this is something I've said now for like 10 years, and it feels ridiculous, that we have to say, guys, could we put some codes in packs to let us play online?
Like Pokemon has done since the late 90s.
Yeah, if you have any idea how ridiculously great that's been for Pokemon, it is unbelievable. And it's really sad that that idea keeps coming back over and over and over and over and over again. And it just feels like they don't give a crap. They just don't care. Because when you tell us that, that's whatever, they don't really acknowledge it, then they just don't care. I don't know. I still think it's a great idea. Let's move forward so Aaron can tell us a little bit about Planeswalkers, about how you feel about Planeswalkers. There was an interesting article by our friend Seth, Mr. Saffron Olive himself, on MTG Goldfish. And I'll put the links in the chatty chats so you guys can go check that out. He wrote a really interesting article about how there's a lot of Planeswalkers these days. Ever since Battle for Zendikar, we've had 4 in every big set. 4. Yeah. We used to get like 2, maybe 3 when some crazy stuff was happening, and we would always get the singular one when it came to small sets. And now we're getting like 4 in the big sets and an average of 2 in every small set. That's a lot of Planeswalkers. And when they decide to push them because they got to be good, you don't want them to suck, well, then we have this Gideon thing that's just like a cloud that hangs over us forever. So, Aaron, are there too many Planeswalkers?
So this article got a lot of really positive feedback. You brought up, he mentions the fact that, one of the problems with this new approach to storytelling is that you almost have an obligation to make the characters that you are talking about be good. It's very clear that Wizards is trying to build this almost like Avengers-like group so that they can, sell some merchandise. There's been a lot of talk of the Magic movie that's supposed to happen one day. And so if you're really trying to make this happen, these cards need to be good. And the problem is that these cards are so good that you really can't run any other cards because the power level is just not there. One of the examples that Seth uses is Gisela. When you look at Gisela the Broken Blade, she's not a bad card. She's a 4/3 flying first strike lifelink for 2 and 2 white. And, if God forbid you happen to have Bruna and her on the board, things get real. But when you have something like Gideon, which is, some people have argued, the best card in Standard, you have no reason to play Gisela because you have Gideon, and the power level, there's just a gulf between them. And so it stifles creativity. He suggested it might be one of the reasons that the format has gone stale, as many people have suspected. And he also mentions that there aren't very many solutions, and he does go on to propose a couple. And, I think he brings up a really good point in that for a while, Planeswalkers were sort of used sparingly. And so it was necessary to have just as few options to deal with them because you weren't seeing them as frequently. I remember when Hero's Downfall was first spoiled, and it was outrageous that you could finally, just kill a Planeswalker. Like, that was a really dope concept. And, it was sort of novel at the time because we'd really never seen anything like that. And, now we've gotten to the point where they're everywhere and the removal hasn't quite caught up to it yet. We have things like Ruinous Path, but it's a sorcery. You have something like Incendiary Flow, which costs 2, and it's just, the answers just don't line up to where we're at right now with Planeswalkers. And so one of the things that he suggests is that if this is going to be a thing, you need to, adapt your hate to it. Maybe bring Hero's Downfall back, maybe adapt some more removal cards that specifically say deal with a Planeswalker, exile a Planeswalker, if you will. And I really enjoyed this. I think he brings up a lot of really good points. And I think it's something that, I hope people from Wizards read because there's some good feedback here.
For God's sake, we need Pithing Needle. For real.
He even brought that up, the fact that, how many sets do we see Negate in? How many sets did we see Duress in for a time? You mean to tell me you couldn't splash Pithing Needle in more sets? Like, come on now.
It's not. It certainly isn't about like keeping that card's value. No.
No.
That card is a safety valve, and we don't have it. And because we don't have it, turns out the best planeswalkers kind of just everywhere. And then like, oops, they forgot like this infinite combo that if Pithy Needle were in standard, it wouldn't even be a problem. Everybody be like, well, we're going to have to make sure we get Pithy Needles instead of stopping Gideon. We're going to get stops of Healy Rye as well. That's great. We just, for God's sakes, Pithy Needle. I know we can't really get Phyrexian Revoker back without getting Phyrexians back, so.
Right.
Make a generic version of that, please, already. Thanks. We definitely need a Doomblade for Planeswalkers. Just black and a colorless, destroy target Planeswalkers. Just let it happen. Just let it happen.
Or even things like Celestial Purge, where it was like exile a black or red permanent. You know, that was something that can deal with Liliana, can deal with Chandra. You know, it's versatile things like that.
It'd be really interesting. And one of the last things is...
that is to Doomblade for Planeswalkers.
Absolutely, Doomblade. However, someone I was just going through the comments of the article, and someone actually mentioned a really cool card. What if there was Null Rod for Planeswalkers?
Wow.
2 colorless, Planeswalkers can activate their abilities. Period. Deal with it. You know, it's like, that's awesome.
I like it.
That would be so good. Wizards, for God's sake, some generic, artifact-based Planeswalker answers yesterday, because I'm kind of really sick of living in this world. I hope there's plenty in Amonkhet. I feel like I want to believe that there are answers in there, that they've seen the light at some point during that design process. However, I would note that I don't think Wizards is necessarily doing it wrong by making sure the Planeswalkers are good. The Planeswalkers need to be good.
Oh, sure.
Let's look at another game. There used to be this game called Versus System, and they had this set called X-Men, and the X-Men sucked. So if you have a set that has this thing on the box and this thing's supposed to be sweet and it sucks, you get Weatherlight. That's what happened with Weatherlight. All the characters were crap.
You should definitely have the characters be good, but there should be a deck building hurdle that you must cross in order to play them. I think that one of the best answers I saw in the article was to make the Planeswalkers more mana intensive, especially based on, a lot of these characters are specifically powered by, Nissa is super green mana, Chandra is super red mana. They're powered by specific mana sources. So why have Gideon be 2 colorless white and be basically splashable? And why not make him colorless with 3 white or 4 white for that matter? Why not make them very specific to the type of mana that they require as Planeswalkers, and make the deck building requirement a little bit more difficult and still get the powerful effects? I think that's a really good way to try to solve the issue here with the Planeswalkers. Another one that I wouldn't mind is, it'd be interesting if there were just a plane that the Planeswalkers hadn't been to yet. I think that a Planeswalkerless block will let us remember what Magic used to be like. They'll still be in Standard, right? Because you'll still have the previous block and you'll still have the next block, but maybe a set or 2 in a row where they just aren't Planeswalkers. Or, the first set doesn't have Planeswalkers. Oh man, they haven't gotten here yet, and then we get to the new world and hand them the smallpox blankets, and then that's not good. But if like Planeswalkers discovered a new world or were suddenly thrust into this new existence, that might be an interesting storyline and would also give designers the excuse to not use Planeswalkers in a set. I think that both of those are interesting solutions to the problem as well.
They're interesting, but they're terrible for marketing. There's people get super excited about what Planeswalkers are in the set. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Some don't need Planeswalkers as the main character, right? As the main reason for you to buy the set.
No,
Shadows over not Shadows over Eldritch Moon, the main the headline card was a creature. It was Emrakul, right? When you had cons, the headline cards were the fetch lands. That's why you bought packs. You can do it. It is possible to do.
Of course you can. But the point is, why do Planeswalkers even exist? Because Magic needs a Mickey Mouse. Who is your Mickey Mouse? Well, it's Jace Beleren. Well, when has he been reprinted last? Well, it's been a while. But he was in Shadows of Innistrad. So he's probably going to show up again in Amonkhet in some form, I'm guessing, because the Justice League has to happen. The movie's not going to happen without main characters, and we have our main characters now. So I think first of all, the hate has to go up. For God's sakes, the hate have to go up. And second of all, I do think the idea of planeswalkers being very narrow, like this is your strategy. Instead of Gideon being like, just make a dude or whatever, like
make all the things.
How about you just like make him do one thing specifically? Like maybe these planeswalkers coming up have to do something with enchantments or artifacts. You know, like the Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. Like that was really interesting. Yeah. Because you couldn't just throw him in any blue-black deck or splash for him in your black deck to run this blue planeswalker because he's so cool you just can't not run him. So there we are. Anyway, let's keep moving. We got some interesting stories this week. Splash Damage, where we talk a little bit about stories that are not necessarily about Magic, but they're kind of about Magic. So there was a Cracked article. Stay with me. There was a Cracked article that I'll post the link in the description in the chats, and it will be in the description for our podcast listeners. That the title was "My Fake Magic the Gathering Cards Fooled Almost Everyone," and sure enough, was written by Anonymous. Weird, and this person kind of goes over his sort of retelling of he bought a bunch of fake cards and he sold a bunch of fake cards, and check out my morals. I mean, like, it's really weird, and ultimately it's kind of strange that the entire article is like, if you want to be a douchebag, there exists the douche if you would like to go put it in the bag, because you can buy fake Magic cards. They exist. And like some of the shady stuff of him, like he would have a light with two different like modes, low and bright, and he would put the low on the real one and the high on the fake one, so they looked the same. And like, I mean, come on, man! Like, you are literally just cheating people out of their money. And so it was strange. And at the end of it, you know, he's like, where do I draw the line? And, you know, at one point, a cop went up to him when he was selling cards in a parking lot and was like, you know, hey, what are you doing selling the drugs? And he's like, I'm just selling cardboard. Yeah. That's crazy. And, and then everybody laughs and somebody gets ripped off. I mean, like, it's sort of surreal in a way to read how blatant it is, and how he drew the line at Pokemon cards. Just couldn't handle the 12-year-olds getting ripped off, but everybody else is fair game.
Yeah, I first of all, I'm not sure that this article is based in reality. I think that this might be a fabrication.
I don't.
Okay, well, I think that this is
it's a point worth bringing up.
Yeah, I think that this is pretty sensationalist and invokes a lot of hysteria. I mean, obviously, it's good to be protected, but this article does nothing to do that other than exaggerate the problem. Like, I feel like that this is very likely to be a fan fiction that is a fake article about fake cards, which is pretty meta. But I think that that this is not a particularly... I have very little to say about this article because I'm not sure it's real, and it's also written pretty poorly. But the underlying point is correct in that there are people out there who do create fake Magic cards and do seek out less than scrupulous printers and less than scrupulous shipping folks. I just think that this article is not my favorite.
Are you trying to tell me this is fake news?
I find that fascinating because how many times have we launched discussions based on a Reddit thread or based on whatever, but that's real.
No, hold on. We always give the, now this came from Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. This one being from Cracked, which is a source we don't usually cite.
But they have stepped up their game a little bit in recent months. I mean...
All right, well, okay.
Just saying.
They post really interesting content. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true or whatever. But again, I think we know Magic well enough to understand that this is all possible.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to lie to tell the truth, and I get that as well. And even if that's what's happening here, sure, that's fine. So let's assume for the moment that my conspiracy theory of this not being a real thing isn't a thing, and that this is actually a real person that did all of these things that happened. There's a lot of weird stuff that's happening in this article. The rubbing, it wasn't this article the one that had where they rubbed it on the asphalt?
Yeah, he had to create the illusion that had been a little dinged up because he didn't want it to appear too perfect because that was suspicious.
Yeah, which was I mean, it makes sense, but it's certainly a step beyond what I would have anticipated. You know, there's seeking out basically trying to find the Saul Goodman of his own world, of trying to find the printer to be able to get passable fakes out there. It was a really fascinating story.
And we've talked about this before, where, God forbid somebody cracks the code on how to print a beta card that you cannot tell is not an official beta. You know what I mean? That is always this weird cloud that kind of hangs over, because the Magic industry is so big, the cards are worth so much money. If somebody ever cracks that code, God help us all. But I don't, I want to believe that's not going to happen. But I also understand that there are probably people out there who are working very hard every day trying to make it happen.
I thought this was fascinating. Like, I actually really I didn't know a lot about this. I knew that obviously fakes have been a problem, but there were a couple of things that stood out to me. The first thing that I was really intrigued by was they mentioned the fact, almost like money laundering, in that they purposely don't deal with fakes past a certain price point, because they say, for example, if you tell a cop I paid $500 for this card but it's fake, not only is the cop not likely to even know what you're talking about, because how many times have we tried explaining to people what we do and they're like, do you do magic tricks? And you're like, no, it's a magic card. So you've got that against you in terms of being punished or prosecution. But if it's for a minimal amount like $500, you're less likely to really face any punishment for that. And so they say, I like to keep each sale under $1,000. It's like money laundering. You're purposely doing like little amounts to put into your bank account to not arouse suspicion. I thought that was fascinating. I really enjoyed the talk about the morals, where it's like, well, you have this company that's making, all this money, and they're either not willing to release these things or what have you. And you have these players who really just want to play. And they mention this of, when do I feel guilty? Who do I feel bad for sort of manipulating or taking advantage of? I thought that was a really interesting discussion point. But the thing that really stood out to me the most was the fact the people buying it. Like, there are people who, and Ruben, you brought this up, there's not enough discussion of how to prevent this from happening, how to prevent yourself from falling victim to this. There were people mentioned in this article that didn't even blink, that were like, oh, hey, you want a Taiga for 300 or whatever? And people were like, sounds good. And nobody taught these people to be like, these cards really aren't that cheap. And if somebody's offering this to you, there's probably a catch. And so, or what to look for specifically. And I really enjoyed this, and I wouldn't, this is all entirely plausible.
Absolutely. So it was just one of those things that maybe it's not real, maybe not, but there's unscrupulous people.
Yeah, I mean, in order for a Magic card to be worth its weight in gold, it has to be worth like $87, right? Mm-hmm. Literal worth its weight in gold. There are Magic cards that are worth $20,000. So people are going to try to forge Magic cards. It's going to happen. I'm not trying to deny that it isn't happening, that it hasn't already happened. I just think that some of the stories in this particular article were a little bit fanciful. But it's 100% accurate that people are going to try to pass off fakes, and so you need to protect yourself. And if this does that, sure.
And don't just think that it's like the $100+ cards. This person's like, I keep under $1,000. No. When people counterfeit money, they don't just counterfeit $100 bills. They counterfeit 20s.
Yeah.
These little $20 Mishra's Bauble, great example that somebody posted in chat. It's like, that's a perfect card that you could you just don't blink twice. Like, who's gonna proxy a Mishra's Bauble? Well, it's a $40 in common. That seems pretty decent. And
in a game where people want to, in a competitive atmosphere where people want to be the best, and there's money on the line and prestige on the line, I mean, people have done worse.
And there is an aspect there of sometimes I just want to play Magic. Sometimes I just want to play with this card that does this thing and not have to pay $400 for it. Like, absolutely. I want a Mishra's Workshop and not have to sell my car to buy it. Like, right. I don't want to do that, but I want to play with the cards. So there is sort of a proxy market out there. First of all, it's illegal to sell proxies, but there is the proxy guy who does listen to the show. Hey, buddy. And and he gives us lots of love, and I appreciate that. But he makes proxies, and he's 100% clear. He doesn't sell them. He puts them on the bottom, not for sale. Yeah. That's the thing. He makes them in his own time, and it's really sweet, super cool, and that's great. So there's ways you can kind of make your own. Anyone can kind of make their own sort of print and play at home. But there's that aspect. And the other aspect is we're playing a children's card game. Yeah, well, you ever sold $20,000 piece of Candyland or whatever?
Card game? Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. All right, so we're out of time for our other
Real
topic.
quick, I want to shout out to Proxy Guy because he made our Wizards of the Post logo for our soccer team. So shout out for that.
He also made my stream layout, and he was nice enough to send me a playset of Bazaar of Baghdad proxies, which are beautiful, and they are amazing. I can't thank him enough.
He's a wonderful dude. All right, so we got to move on. We got to turn the corner to the finisher. So this week, after the Gamma show, there was a huge shakeup that left 3 iconic longtime board game legends out of a job. I'm, of course, talking about the 3 Monopoly pieces, the thimble, the wheelbarrow, and the boot. They got the boot from the all-time classic and truly terrible Hasbro title. Seriously.
It is a horrifically bad game.
For God's sakes, it's terrible. If you think Monopoly is the hype,
Monopoly.
then you have not played a good board game. I promise you, it's crap. All right, so more than 4.3 million votes on social media determined the newly configured group of 8, T-Rex, Rubber Ducky, and Penguin will join the 5 classic tokens Scotty the dog, the hat, the car, the battleship, and the cat, which you may recall replaces the iron from 2013. This is a truly moment. This is a day to remember. We're going to be marking this down.
It's a big deal.
We're going to talk to our grandkids about this crap. But it begs the question: what iconic character would be next to get the boot from Magic? Ruben?
Well, personally, I am pretty over the Eldrazi at this point. But I guess it's pretty easy to feel like they've been around too long, given the fact that they were around since before time got invented.
Wow.
So
That's a long time.
it's a long time.
Aaron?
Well, as you may recall, I would be quite all right if we never saw a Johnny Coldmane in another set ever again. But I know that'll never happen because even if we actually get rid of him, the cat will just come back the very next day.
Little Pet Cemetery? I like the subtle dig, the Johnny Oldmane, if you will.
He's getting old, man.
Oof.
Wow. All right. Well, look, I gotta say, I'm just super medium on Kiora. Like, I loved her fish fight with Thassa. It was great. But we're past that now, okay? Just like Benjamin Franklin always said, fish and visitors stink after 3 blocks. That's how it works. That's what he said back in the day. That's how it works.
Yeah. Benjamin Franklin, noted modern fan.
Oof.
Clearly. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode of Magic Mike's. I want to thank you guys here for joining us and my co-host. Thank you, Aaron, very much.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back.
Yes, it is. Ruben, thanks for hanging out, buddy.
Thank you. It's medium to be back.
Wow. It's just straight medium. It's been a real pleasure.
It's good. I didn't know what to do with myself last Wednesday, so it's definitely good to be back.
There we go. All right, so we're going to move to our final slide here. Noted another episode of Magic Mike's has come to a close. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. I want to thank my co-hosts, you guys for watching, and CoolStuffInc.com for supporting the show, and you guys for supporting us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Visit our website at MagicMikesPodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters, or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do all the things social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/MagicMikes, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMikes. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.